Well, again, welcome to everyone. Our family's thrilled to be back. 2 weeks ago, I was able to preach at the congregation that Jennifer and I grew up in, and then last week, able to sit. They have a new preacher there, and it's the first time we'd met him, so it was nice to sit in the audience, just to be the dad in the pew for a short time. But thank you to Andre for speaking. Very grateful for that. And then to Gene as well, and I'll follow up with him too, but a few ladies will pass that on to him. So thankful for both of them for doing that. I don't take that lightly, and I thought about them. We watched the clock. We knew what you were doing. We accounted for the time change as well. But this morning, so glad you're here. The week and a half we were gone was it wasn't planned to be this way. It's just the way it kind of kept coming together. Was a week and a half of celebration. We celebrated a high school graduation. We had cake for that. We celebrated it with more family, so then we ended up having some cupcakes for that event. And then it was Dad's 80th birthday, so Mom made a cake that he likes. I love it. I was thrilled with all the bake stuff coming. And then it was Mom's, was the 20th anniversary of her liver transplant, so we celebrated that. Fortunately, we didn't do cake, we ate out. So I celebrated that with chicken. It was a nice diversion from all of that. But as we come back, I think life's not always a celebration. It's not always vacation. It's not always the good things. And some of the yellow cards this morning remind us of that. Your life right now may very much be a reminder of that. This may be the diversion for a while this morning. Sometimes we can feel like God has forgotten us, like we dropped off of His radar just a little bit for a time. Those times when we wonder if God is still around. Is He still paying any attention to me, to us, and what we're going through? Those times when Mom drops a child off to a class full of new faces, and that child can be any age. I remember telling the girls, I don't know how many years I cried on the first day of school. For all I know, I was a junior in high school and still dreading the day. But the child's dropped off, and Mom seems so far away. And the child thinking, God, are you there? So when a person's ignored by the one they thought was their best friend, and the text simply said, we can't be friends anymore. God, where are you? Someone praying earnestly for a job, but then the economy bottoms out, the classifieds dry up, and they think, how long, Lord? How long? Or the one who is secure in family and secure in their job. Things seem to be going very well, and they have been for a while, but then the doctor calls and the lab work is back, and they're told it doesn't look good. Why me, God? And why now? The person maybe with family everywhere, but where they're at, and God, are you still there? Why don't you answer me? How long? David of Old Testament fame, the one we can just say his name, it's come up this morning already. He felt forgotten too. This David, with all the good things, all the stories said about him, felt forgotten. If you'll look at Psalm 13, wrote a song about it. Oh, I'd love to have the music. We're just left with the words, but that's okay. Psalm 13. So we can't sing the words, but we'll read them. He says, how long, Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I wrestle with my thoughts and day after day have sorrow in my heart? How long will my enemy triumph over me? Look on me and answer, Lord my God, give light to my eyes or I will sleep in death. And my enemy will say, I've overcome him and my foes will rejoice when I fall. But I trust in your unfailing love. My heart rejoices in your salvation. I will sing the Lord's praise, for he has been good to me. As I read those words, can you relate a little bit to David's loneliness? Knowing that your circumstance is nothing like his, where he was at, that part of the world, of course, that time. But can you get an idea of what he's crying out? And those words come, and sometimes our words come, and there's more to it than the words. But can you feel that? I don't know the events that made David write this. I don't know when the song was written, what did he pull together? Was it one event? Was it many events? Was it just a culmination of life? Maybe it's when he was chased by the king, the one he thought he could trust, and then time and again tried to kill David. Is that what he's thinking of? And God, where have you forgotten me, as another spear comes his way? It's in 1 Samuel 18:19, and it even goes further. It just keeps reading that way. Was it when he fled into enemy territory, the place where we never thought we would find him in his part of the story? Is it there that he feels so alone? He's not around his people anymore, seeking a place for a break from it all for a time. It's in 1 Samuel 27. On the run, tired, uncertain. And David obviously felt forgotten. We hear that in what we've read. He feels beaten, maybe even humiliated, all that's going on. Yet his feelings of the unknown didn't beat out what he did know. His feelings of the unknown did not beat out what he did know. So how do we make it through the loneliness of life? How do we work our way through the rejection of life? How do we survive in the emptiness of life? Those times when we cry out, God, how long? Well, we must know what David knew. We have to know what David knew, and then we have to do what David did. He's on to something, and it's beautiful what he's on to. He found victory in some very trying times over and over again in his life. Things of his own making, things that he never wanted, and then everything in between. And his song's there to teach us, and here's what we can learn. First of all, we must know God's love and trust in it. We must know God's love and trust in it. It's in verse 5. It's very succinct in what he says. Excuse me. But I trust in your unfailing love. But I trust in your unfailing love. In the midst of the song, it just kind of flows through. But when we pause and just look at that verse, but I trust in your unfailing love. I wonder how often David thought back to Goliath. In the days after that, in the months that came, and things in his life changed dramatically from what he was doing to now who he was, did he ever think back to that time when that giant was defeated by him? Did he ever go back to that? Was he ever scared enough that he remembered, oh yeah, the giant? Or did it fade over time? I don't know. What about you? What has God done for you up to now? Up to this date? What has God done in your life where He's proven Himself faithful to you, that He loves you? Something He's done for your family, something He's done in the workplace, something He's done with that problem that you thought was insurmountable at the time, and now you look at it and it's like, wow, that's been a long time ago. What kind of anniversaries did you celebrate of not something, a milestone of something good, but maybe a milestone of something conquered? And you look back and you know that God was there. How has He proven Himself faithful in your past? It wasn't a giant wearing battle armor, but it was a giant of another kind. Maybe something of your making, maybe something not of your making. How did He show Himself faithful? When I was 7 or 8, I remember the preacher giving a lesson on faith. And to demonstrate, he asked me to come up to the stage. I remember going up, And it was the stage where I preached a couple of weeks ago. And he wanted me to fall backwards, and he said he would catch me. It was a good lesson on faith. What made me do it? He had my dad come up there too. I trusted the preacher. I don't know. He was also kind of a jokester, so there was some reservation in my mind what he might do. But then he had my dad come up. Did I do it? Did I fall backwards off the stage? Absolutely. I knew Dad wouldn't fail me. Dad has never failed me, and I don't expect him to anytime soon. His track record's pretty good as a dad. God won't ever fail you. He loves you that much. Over and over and over and over and over and over again, He's proved it. He's proved it with others, through others, in you, through you, because of you, sometimes in spite of you, sometimes in spite of me, that He loves us. And He wants us to know that. At a minimum, if nothing else, and there's so much more, but at a minimum, you have life today. We have this moment. As long as this moment lasts, we have this. This is something about us. Deserving of it? No. Should continue? No. But God wants to do something with us. So how can you know God's love? It's one thing to say know it, but how can we know it? Well, yeah, and we'll have to know it before we can trust in it. It's one thing to say it, trust in God's love, knowing it, but we have to know something about it. We get the honors of reading His Word. We get the honors of opening up the Bible and seeing what He's done in the past and what He promises to do right now and what He has planned for the future. And over, the resounding theme is God's love. God's love. But we'll have to read what He said, what He's written, what we've had passed on to know about this God. See what He's done, and then see what He said. Listen to what He said to show that you matter to Him. These songs, these words, the poetry, the prophecy, it's about God, but it's also about us. It's about you. What does it say about God's love for you? For example, hear a familiar verse, hear it in a fresh way. This is how much God loved the world. He gave His Son, His one and only Son. And this is why. So that no one need be destroyed. By believing in Him, anyone can have a whole and lasting life. God didn't go to all the trouble of sending His Son merely to point an accusing finger, telling the world how bad it was. He came to help, to put the world right again. In John 3:16 and 17. God loves you when the results come back and they're not good. God loves you when the questions can't be answered from our point of view. God loves you when the notice of the plant closing comes, when the office is downsizing, when things in your life are changing and we're asking God, how long? How long, O Lord? Trust God's love. Trust God. Secondly, we must know God's salvation and sing it. We must know God's salvation and sing it. David says at the end of verse 5, my heart rejoices. We must know God's salvation and rejoice in. My heart rejoices in your salvation. Knowing God's salvation and rejoicing in it. Knowing His salvation and rejoicing in it. This word salvation, it's a big word. We don't use it a whole lot. It comes up sometimes, and it's always used in the same way. We use it a lot in circles here as we talk about the Bible and God's work for us. It's defined as deliverance from the power and the effects of sin. But like this one, preservation from destruction or failure. Deliverance from danger or difficulty. Now, when we think David's life, David got salvation. David knew what this was about. In 1 Samuel 17, this is before David and Goliath. This is before big man versus little man, just a little bit before. In 1 Samuel 17, I just want to start reading in verse 32. This David knew salvation and he rejoiced in it. I want you to hear these events, because later he's going to be singing it in a psalm. David said to Saul, let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine, the giant, Goliath. your servant will go and fight him." Saul replied, "You're not able to go out against this Philistine and fight him. You're only a young man, and he's been a warrior from his youth." But David said to Saul, "Your servant has been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion or bear came and carried off a sheep from the flock, I went after it, struck it, and rescued the sheep from its mouth. When it turned on me, I seized it by its hair, struck it, and killed it. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear. This uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, because he has defied the armies of the living God. The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine." Saul said to David, "Go, and the Lord be with you." What has God delivered you from? This is David's story, and I'm so thankful we know as much about David's life as we do. It helps these Psalms come to life. But what has God rescued you from? As you think back about your story, and if you go back a few chapters, if you go back closer to the beginning or just maybe a few verses ago, think about what God's delivered you from. Maybe even write it down. Write those things down as you think about them. Where might you be without God? It's speculation or not. Sometimes we know exactly where we were, and we know it was only going to get worse before God. In what ways have you changed since you've known God? And we can sometimes see it better in other people, but before God, this person used to be like this. Difficult, always doing this, always saying this, and then time with God and time with Jesus, it just changed their life. And we think back to ourselves before Jesus, before I really believed that He is Lord, this is the road I was going down. What has He saved you from? When you think about the destruction or the failure or the pain, and if you haven't made Him Lord of your life, today is a good day to do that. This God who saves. When you realize you've been saved, and when you realize what you've been saved from, rejoicing is usually what follows. It was only a few years ago, there was 155 people. They rejoiced in their salvation, and they knew exactly whom to praise. It was in a news report shortly after that read, U.S. Airways Flight 1549 encountered problems, apparently hitting a flock of birds and losing power in both engines minutes after taking off from LaGuardia Airport en route to Charlotte, North Carolina. The pilot, whom we know now much better by name, Captain Chesley B. Soley Solenberger III, opted to land the craft in the Hudson. Passenger Bill Elkins says, "I was in the life raft with him at the end, and he was amazingly calm, and I gave him a hug, and I said, 'You're my hero.'" Another person said of the pilot, "It's amazing to be able to be a hero and to save 150 plus lives in a day just because of your actions. I don't think any one of us can thank him enough. He's a true hero, no question." "I thought our chances were slim and none," one survivor said, "because I just thought this plane would flip if we came at the wrong angle, maybe 5 or 6 degrees different. It was a different story. He was brilliant. We all want to meet him." Salvation, or saving, is what God does. It's who God is. That God can be nothing else. When your world seems to be falling apart and you're asking how long, rejoice that God saves you. Rejoice that God saved you. When your dreams seem to have crashed, will you still rejoice in your hero, this God who saves over and over again? He is brilliant, and one day we will meet Him. So as we question how long, we must know God's love and trust in it. We must know God's salvation and rejoice in it. And finally, we must know God's goodness and sing it. We must know God's goodness and sing it. That psalm ended, "I will sing the Lord's praise, for He has been good to me." I will sing the Lord's praise, for He has been good to me. When you know God's love and then you know God's salvation, His ability to save, you just have to sing it. And if anyone knew God, it's David, the one, a man after my own heart, God says of him. It's no wonder then that he's the one that writes so many of these songs that we sing, that we know. What are these psalms? They're songs. Here's David penning so many of them. You see, in a song, the focus comes off of us and goes to the one we sing to. We see it on TV plenty of times. Most episodes of The Voice or American Idol, this is exactly what's going on. Someone's trying to make it big and they sing to their favorite judge or coach. That's exactly who they're singing to. They want Katie or Kelly or Blake to know that they're special. And then sometimes a song is dedicated or sung to mom or to a girlfriend. That's who they're singing to. It's not about me, I'm singing to you. And when we sing to God, we're giving it up to God. We want to sing to God because we want Him to know that He's special. He's special. Why wouldn't He be? Who else in your life is like God? When you think of all the good people in your life, the great people that we can surround ourselves with, who is like God? Sometimes we'll say people they're godly in their actions or in what they say, but they're a long ways from God. Who else in your life can do what God does? Hear your prayers and answer and work circumstances out in a way that you never thought possible and bring great reward and speak all of creation into existence. This is our God, and He's so special. Think of how good God has been to you. Sometimes we can see it very clearly in somebody else's life. God's been good to you. God's blessing them. Look at you. What has God done for you? How good has He been in your life to you? There are those moments we're questioning, God, how long are you even still here? And then there's other times where He was abundantly clear, very visible, and working nothing short of the miraculous in our lives. And when you know those things, sing of them. Sing of them. We can sing while we wait. These are all things we're doing while we're waiting. They're not things that are easy to do, but it looks like David's on to something very good. While we wait, we sing. At our house, we always pause and we thank God before we eat. It's had us praying in some very interesting places, interesting circumstances. But God is so good, we have no choice. I didn't create that. I didn't make it miraculously appear. At best, I paid for it, but it's not from me, it's from God. And I was thinking, maybe we should not, listen, today at lunch, let's not pray, let's sing. Let's sing, thank you, Lord. Let's sing, God is so good to me. Let's sing it back to God because He's so good. And we'll sing it. Praying, singing, humming, clapping, crying tears of joy because God is so good. Amen? Amen. A lady named Mallory, I don't know where she lives. She tells of her grandpa's dementia. Been going on for a while. It became too much for her grandmother. So he was moved into a nursing home. And it's not like he knew anybody or really anything. It was just so confusing for him. On one visit, Mallory began to sing It Is Well. It's her grandfather's favorite song, and he began to sing along. And she said not only did he remember the words, but he remembered his part of the harmony. A good song sung to a good God is still powerful even when our situation isn't good. We may not be able to change our situation in the immediate time, and David reminds us our God is still good in that, and sing it anyway. And Mallory's grandpa reminds us of that. We must know God's love and trust in it. We must know God's salvation and rejoice in it. And it only follows that we must know God's goodness and sing it. Listen to another song of praise for His goodness. The first part of it, it's Psalm 113. Singing God's goodness. Hear it in light of all we've just talked about. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord, you His servants. Praise the name of the Lord. Let the name of the Lord be praised both now and forevermore. From the rising of the sun to the place where it sets, the name of the Lord is to be praised. The Lord is exalted over all the nations, his glory above the heavens. Who is like the Lord our God, the one who sits enthroned on high? So as we ask, how long, O Lord? And it's a good question to ask, and it's an okay question to ask. As long as we ask that, we wait. And as we wait, we have some things to do. We can know God's love, and we can know God's salvation, that saving ability that he has, and we can know God's goodness. And as we know those things, we trust in them, and we rejoice in them, and we sing them. And no matter how long it is, no matter how long we wait, we're reminded our God still reigns. Amen? Amen. Let's stand and sing together.